Obviously very satisfied with today's result. Overall, I think a very positive outcome to the investigation. 2 persons found guilty of the murder of Sophie Lancaster, and all 5 defendants in this case found guilty of the serious assault against Robert Maltby. This attack was senseless, brutal, vicious, and in my opinion very cowardly. I say cowardly because 5 young men attacked Robert Maltby. He offered no threat to those individuals, no retaliation, even during the initial assault, and 2 of that group then moved on to his girlfriend, who did nothing more than to try and protect Robert, and we believe that she was knelt down cradling his head when she was first assaulted. For my mind, the actions of those 5 individuals were completely cowardly.
Detective Inspector, how would you describe the evidence that we've heard in courts about this vicious attack and the way that those 5 young men behaved on that night?
As Mr Shorrock described in his opening, I think it's best described as like a pack of animals. What I would say is, in the light of an apparent focus on youth violence, what I would remind you is that 3 individuals that night actually did do the right thing. A young girl and 2 young boys who stayed behind, contacted the emergency services and also rendered first aid, and then had the bravery to come forward to give their evidential accounts to the police, but not only that, but to come to Crown Court and give their evidence under a lot of pressure. And in stark contrast to the comments about the defendants, I think they've shown a great deal of bravery.
And Robert Maltby, who survived the attack, the boyfriend of Sophie Lancaster, is still not fully recovered. How would you describe the way that he has dealt with himself since the attack and through this court case?
I think Robert Maltby, his family, and the family of Sophie Lancaster, in particular her mother Sylvia and her brother Adam, have throughout conducted themselves with utmost dignity. They've been extremely supportive and patient during the police investigation. It has been a problematic and lengthy investigation, not least because of the young age of the defendants in this case, but also the young age of our key witnesses. And I think the family members of both victims throughout have acted with complete dignity and been very supportive. For that I thank them.
Police have come out with some very strong comments, haven't they, after this case?
Yes, they have. They've described Sophie's murder and the attack on Rob as vicious and cowardly. Shocking not just because of the level of violence used, but because of the attitude of her killers. They, and apparently even some of their parents, were laughing in police custody when their sons were rearrested. And police came out here today and said that they were extremely concerned that a small element of youth appears to enjoy excessive violence. And this was certainly a very brutal crime. Sophie Lancaster was proud to be different, but to her killers, Sophie's look and clothes made her and boyfriend Rob Maltby a target. These are her teenage murderers, Brendan Harris and Ryan Herbert. Tonight we can reveal their names and faces because of their sickening violence.
This was such a vicious assault on people who've offered up no violence whatsoever. They were defenceless, and when you look at the circumstances with Sophie, where she's there cradling her boyfriend's head, who's already unconscious, the level of violence used, stamping repeatedly on the head, is awful. These people have acted like animals.
Sophie and Rob were attacked in Stubby Park in Bacup by 5 teenagers in all. After beating Rob unconscious, Herbert and Harris set upon Sophie. Hysterical witnesses rang 999.
If you can check whether they're breathing.
Oh, yeah, are they breathing? Are they breathing? Please tell me if they're breathing enough. Just about, he said, just about. They're making noises like they can't breathe.
Rob's friend got a call in the middle of the night on Rob's stolen phone saying the pair were lying dead in the park.
You just fill up with an emotion that you can't describe. It just hits you like a brick wall, and I had to get down to Bacup Park as fast as I could.
Sophie and Rob were taken to hospital. Their facial injuries were so bad it was impossible to tell whether they were male or female. Rob recovered, but Sophie died 2 weeks later.
I stand outside this House of Justice today, not as Sophie's mother, but as a voice that was cruelly silenced in a single mindless act. Sophie was a thoughtful, sensitive individual, and she would not have wanted her death to have been in vain. I hope, therefore, that as a society, we can use what has happened to reflect on where we are going and what changes we need to make to prevent others suffering in this way.
This footage from the internet site YouTube shows Herbert with friends. Both he and Harris had been involved in an assault before. Police today condemned Harris's parents for laughing when their son was rearrested. It was, they said, a shocking level of disregard.
Whatever happens to them can never be as bad as what I want to happen to them. I want them to never stop suffering for what they've done.
Friends say Sophie could talk to anyone. People were always interested in her look. But for the unique style she loved, she was singled out for the most brutal of murders. Harris and Herbert will be sentenced next month, a life in custody. 3 other teenage boys who pleaded guilty to attacking Rob in that park are still to be dealt with. Now, in contrast to their behaviour, the judge here today singled out for praise some of the young witnesses who gave evidence. He said they showed commendable courage in trying to prevent the violence and in dialing 999, and they should each receive £250 from the High Sheriff of Lancashire. Back to you.
Today, but I wasn't listening to what they say. I held the truth in my hand, but it took me a while to understand. Probably doesn't mean a lot, but a beauty spot has been turned as blood. Swings and the roundabouts and all the lights have now gone out, and I've heard it all before, and I don't want to hear it again. And I've heard it all before. Will it ever end? I never knew the beaches by the walk in the park. I never knew the beaches by the walk in the park. I heard the soldiers tell about the days you tell out the time in hell. I'd spend some time or two if I could take the night from you. Can't justify this thing, be a victim now for not fitting in. Sometimes we need to fight, but is it right to take a young girl's life? And I've heard it all before, and I don't want to hear it again.